There's this weird thing in crypto. People keep piling up a bunch of rocks and telling us they built a pyramid. It's like, hey, look at us. We've got proof of stake, we've got DeFi, we've got NFTs. Check out our throughput. No one even has to download the blockchain, they can just access it on my server. Never mind actual decentralization, provably secure true liquid staking, deterministic fees, real innovation, or actual community. No, it's much better to pile up a bunch of rocks, extract some value, and call it a magnificent structure. We'll see who actually stands the test of time. Ready? Let's go. We're going to discuss the crazy amount of work that's gone into Cardano versus some of our competitors, a reminder about native tokens, First Republic, another US banking debacle, Larry Summers versus Elon, and some questions about ETH L2 rollups. If you feel like only one of these two things would be noteworthy after several thousand years, or if you're finding value in these videos each weekday, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. I feel like this is the reaction of a lot of the crypto crowd when they realize just how much Cardano's been building. This poster says, ADA has the highest cumulative code commits. What are they building over there? And then, of course, he's looking at this very nice table here. And you can see Cardano is by far in the lead. I can't quite tell what the y-axis is over there, but it's some kind of reflection of cumulative code commits. And unsurprisingly, Cardano is at this 106 measure, 106 units of something. And the next two projects are Polkadot and Kusama at 75. So that's quite a lead. Then we go down to ICP at 65, Ethereum at 57, Gnosis at 55, Osmosis at 35, it looks like, and then Sui 35, Solana 34, and on down. There's quite a big difference. I mean, especially when you look at the difference between Cardano and even Ethereum. I mean, Cardano is has almost double the cumulative code commits of Ethereum. I can understand why this would be kind of shocking to, sort of proponents of other blockchain ecosystems. Everybody would assume it would be the opposite. No, of course, Ethereum would have twice the cumulative code commits of Cardano, if not 10 times as many. When in fact, Cardano has doubled Ethereum. And I don't know what the time scale is on this. I don't know what the units of measurement are, but this is pretty consistent with what we've always seen about the sort of coding activity going on in Cardano. And people come up with all kinds of rationalizations about how a commit doesn't necessarily mean anything. You could make a huge number of meaningless commits, but that's not what's going on here. Cardano has been at the top of these charts for years now, over and over and over again, repeatedly. And this is because Cardano has been doing real building. It's not doing this syndrome we see in crypto where people come in and it is literally like they throw together a pile of rocks. They just pile up a bunch of rocks and they say, look at this beautiful, magnificent pyramid I just built. It's a grand, incredible structure. Give me your money. And then they proceed to extract value. That's pretty much how it goes. And they always put in the right rocks, right? They're always like, hey, we have staking. Sometimes they're even like, we have liquid staking. Mind you, though, it is often not true liquid staking, which I would say would have to be non-custodial. If you have staking where you don't have custody of your assets, that's not true liquid staking in the same sense that we have it in Cardano. In Cardano, we have true liquid staking. We've also got things like deterministic fees. Yes, we're likely to transition into tiered fees, but I would say that's still very different than a true fee market where you've got sort of an auction going on that can lead to, bidding wars for fees, essentially. Cardano has all of these interesting things going on. And on top of that, we've got real decentralization. And we're decentralizing even further with Voltaire. We've talked about that many times on this channel. We'll have true self-governance. in addition to being way more decentralized as far as validation of the chain goes than Ethereum or Bitcoin. But these projects don't care about that. They're just piling up a bunch of rocks in the shape roughly of a pyramid and like 1/10 its size. And they're trying to call it a pyramid because what they're trying to do is not build a blockchain that will last for possibly decades. What they're trying to do is extract value. So they know they don't really have to build a pyramid that will stand the test of time. They just need to pile up some rocks and be able to say that rock is staking. That rock is DeFi. That rock is NFTs. Look at us. We're a complete ecosystem. And when people say, okay, yeah, how many nodes do you have? And they're like, don't worry, don't ask about the number of nodes. That's not important. What you need to know is that our throughput is very high because no one has to download a copy of the blockchain. All they have to do is access our server where we keep a copy of the blockchain for you. It's revolutionary. If you're new to the crypto world, just know that that's a single point of failure. That is something that's something you would not point to as a hallmark of decentralization. if everybody is relying on copies of the blockchain on someone's server, that is not decentralization. And yet a lot of blockchains, they're doing something that's very near to what I just described and calling it decentralization. And all the proponents of that blockchain are like, yeah, it's our revolutionary new method for accessing the blockchain. It's better than the decentralized method. This is something we've seen throughout the history of crypto. Maybe not as much in the early days. We're seeing it more and more now because people realize there's a sort of like tried and true method for extracting value from the crypto landscape. And that's doing what I just described. Not really building a pyramid, but just stacking up a bunch of rocks, making sure whatever are the trendiest rocks to have in your rock pile, making sure you got those in the rock pile, and then extracting that sweet, sweet value. And, maybe if you're lucky, you can even just sort of, crossfade after a couple of years. like a Tinder date that was good at the time, but not good enough for more than one time. You can just kind of crossfade into the mist, never to be seen again. That's the way some of these blockchains sort of operate, and that's why we see these a very different sort of in crowd of blockchains that are like the trendy blockchains, over any half decade period. The other day on this channel, we talked about how the blockchain ecosystems that were in or near the top 10 5 years ago are pretty dissimilar to the ones that are in the top 10 now, with a few exceptions. Those exceptions are Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, and Cardano. Those are the blockchains that have remained in the top 10 going back a full 5 years. And the reason is those, at least as to Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Cardano. I won't comment on XRP because I keep saying it, but they're sort of frozen in time with the whole SEC litigation thing. But as far as Ethereum, Bitcoin, and Cardano, they're actually building something. They're trying to build something that will stand the test of time, or at least we can say with Bitcoin, Satoshi did build something that would stand the test of time. And Ethereum has certainly been building something. And Cardano, again, building something to stand the test of time. As you can see from this commit activity, Cardano is really, really building. We're actually building. We're not just piling up rocks. We're actually trying to build one of those magnificent structures that will stand the test of time. And amazingly, Cardano is we're getting very close to something that looks like feature complete. Soon we'll have self-governance. We have the true liquid staking. We have everything you'd want in an actual blockchain. Soon we'll have self-governance, and Cardano is going to be looking like the magnificent structure that the founders started out to build from the very beginning. Here's a valuable public service announcement. This time it's TapTools reminding us that Cardano is a permissionless system. This is a really important point. Anybody can make a token with any name and image, and they tell you the token below is not actually JPEG Store. This is not an official token of JPEG Store. And you notice that's a very JPEG Store-ish looking logo, and JPG certainly makes you think that that might be related to JPEG Store. But this is crypto, and in permissionless crypto ecosystems, anybody can, sort of do certain things. There are certain permissionless things. And one of those things is creating a native token. It's permissionless. Anybody can do it, even bad guys, even scammers, even crooks. And so people will create coins that mimic the branding and name of some entity that you might know and trust. You cannot trust that though. This is a permissionless system. Anybody can just grab a little image, make that the logo, the image for their coin. They can choose any name they want. So you cannot trust these coins. If you see a coin that looks like it's related to a project you like, you cannot trust that it actually has anything to do with that project. It might be a rug pull. So be careful out there. In wider financial news, I think everybody has sort of understood all week that First Republic was inching closer and closer to its demise. And today, articles like this came out. Banks wait on U.S. to decide fate of First Republic. So it looks like the FDIC will be presiding over the funeral of First Republic Bank. And it sort of invited, a few banks to bid to acquire First Republic. Those include JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, PNC, Citizens Financial Group, and US Bank Corp. And of course, the front runner would be JP Morgan Chase, since it's the largest bank in the US. But Bloomberg reports that this acquisition would provide it with more than 10% of all US deposits, which is normally forbidden. Normally, they would not be allowed to make this acquisition, but there is talk of possibly an exception to the rule, which kind of runs counter to a lot of what people have been talking about with this whole bank, fiasco, this whole banking failure fiasco. That the goal should be not to create further centralization in the U.S. banking system, and definitely selling an ailing bank to the largest bank in the country seems like it would do exactly that, create further centralization. But who knows? Who knows what the FDIC will announce tomorrow? One thing we know for sure is it looks like First Republic Bank is indeed dying. And this is probably more interesting to crypto because it's part of a string of 5 failures over the course of something like 50 days. People on Twitter today were reporting 50 days. I haven't gone back and counted it, but it is indeed something on par with like 2 months. We've seen the failures of First Republic now, SVB, Signature, Silvergate, and Credit Suisse. This is not an indicator of great health in the global financial system, in the global banking system, which is kind of what we were told was the case by people like Janet Yellen. At least she very strongly implied that everything was fine. The US banking system, and by extension, then a lot of the global banking system was perfectly healthy. I would say that 5 banks failing in something like 2 months is not an indicator of great health. On this same topic, there was an interesting exchange today featuring Larry Summers, who you might remember was the Secretary of the Treasury under President Clinton. He said, if the Federal Reserve does what's necessary to contain inflation, I think a slowdown is likely to come. The odds on that happening sometime in the next 12 months, I think, are pretty good, perhaps 70%. So he's saying 70% chance in the next 12 months of a slowdown. He's being nice here and using very polite language, a slowdown, if the Fed does what it needs to do to contain inflation. So it's a little bit of a catch-22. Either let inflation run wild or cause a, air quotes, slowdown. And of course, Elon jumped in on this. Yes, Elon Musk, now a macro economist on par with former secretaries of the Treasury. But actually, I think he's probably right. He says Fed data has too much latency. Mild recession is already here. It's not like just the canary in the coal mine died, SVB, Silicon Valley Bank died. One of the staunchest miners, Credit Suisse, died too, and the cemetery is filling up fast. Further rate hikes will trigger severe recession. Mark my words, between Tesla, Starlink, and Twitter, I may have more real-time global economic data in one head than anyone ever. Yes, you thought Elon was just full of future children all the time. He's also full of real-time global economic data, more than anyone ever. also more future children. He seems to be very, very full of these two things. But actually, I think I would not bet against Elon here. He actually does have access to some real-time global economic data between Tesla, Starlink. I don't know about the Starlink part, Twitter, but Twitter and Tesla. These are two companies that a lot of consumers interact with. There's a lot of interaction between actual consumers and Twitter and actual consumers and Tesla. I don't know the size, the scale of Starlink yet, but definitely on Twitter and Tesla. So he might actually have some pretty good insight into what's happening right now globally. And it's hard to bet against him when you've got the string of 5 banks failing like this. Finally, a lot of people are asking a lot of questions about Ethereum layer 2 rollup scaling solutions, including Suraj. He says, are Ethereum rollups a ticking time bomb? Almost 90% of the L2 TVL is on rollups like Optimism and Arbitrum. TVL is total value locked, which lack critical safety measures and are controlled by multisigs, putting billions of dollars of user money at risk. And he's got an article which you can get apparently by subscribing over at the Just the Metrics Beehive site. And if you go down here, there's kind of an interesting, couple of interesting interactions down here in the comments. This poster says, glad someone has finally set it apart from me. They have no longevity. They are rotten from the core. People think it's Web3 when it's Web2. It's not safe to hold billions in TVL on these VC pump and dumps. Suraj responded, yes, we wrote an extensive article about this topic, explaining how VC money forces these immature solutions to market. The newsletter will go out in a couple of hours. So I think this is going to be a developing topic. We'll see what happens with these Rollup L2s over the next couple of years. I remain confident that Cardano will land on some much better scaling solutions, I think, than even our biggest competitor, Ethereum. I hope you're having a great start to your week. I hope you had a great weekend, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.